light bulb moment. You jump out of bed with the most marvelous idea. But before you can do anything about it, you've got to feed the dog, walk the dog, make sure the kids get to school on time, unload the dishwasher, deal with this mountain of laundry that appears overnight. You finally get to your desk. You sit down, but you've got to jump on those client calls that you have. Then you've got your team meeting, and then there's 700 emails that inadvertently appeared in your email box overnight. How did that happen? By the time you've dealt with all of that, it's the afternoon. The dog needs walking again. He needs feeding. The kids are back from school. The dishwasher needs reloading because everybody's had dinner. And that mountain of laundry that you'd put in the machine, it needs taking out and hanging up and drying. Phew. So finally, the dog is blissfully asleep in his dog basket. The kids are in front of the television, being quiet. You have the time, you have a rare half hour, but you no longer have the energy because you are exhausted. Can anyone relate? Yeah. And know, if you feel that you can relate, that you are not alone. And the reason I know you're not alone is because this was my life for years. Wondering why everybody else seemed to really do the things that was important to them, why I couldn't, wondering why there was something wrong with me, not knowing if there was really something that was really, really wrong with me, that I was always so exhausted and couldn't actually do the things that lit me up, that were important to me. And I felt alone in that. And I felt maybe that I just wasn't cut out to be successful. And it wasn't until I discovered that I was part of the 1 in 4 of the population with the highly sensitive trait that things started to make sense for me. And it wasn't until I started reading Dr. Elaine Aron's work on how highly sensitive people have brains that take in more information than others and process it more deeply all of the time, that highly sensitive people have highly responsive nervous systems that are triggered into fight, flight, or freeze more readily than others, that I started to understand I wasn't alone, that there were others like me, that we were more prone to exhaustion and overwhelm, and that it was normal. But before then, I started to listen to the people who just told me, just grow a thicker skin, just get on with it, for goodness sake, just push on through. What's wrong with you? And when I was in the corporate world, I took this advice. It was great advice because it led to 12 months beach hopping around the world because I burnt out. And the thing is, if this is you and you've felt that, maybe I just don't have what it takes to cut it, it's not you that's the problem, but you've been reading from the wrong handbook. What works for the rest of the 80%, if you're highly sensitive, just does not work for you. It doesn't work for your mind, it doesn't work for your nervous systems. You're not the problem, but the handbook is. Which is why I've created a new handbook, one that reframes the way resilience is seen so that it actually works for highly sensitive people, so that resilience isn't used as a stick to beat us over the head with and make us feel less than and that we're failures and that we're weak. So let's throw out this old rule book and this handbook that just doesn't work for us, and instead use the Revolutionary Resilience Handbook that helps you have the energy to match your ambitions. So there are 7 keys in the Revolutionary Resilience Handbook. Key number 1. This teaches us to get out of our heads and back into our bodies. As highly sensitive people with these supercomputer brains, which are always on, we sometimes forget that we have bodies. It's like, hello, body, I'd forgotten you were there. And so it's all about getting back into your body, recognizing that you have a nervous system. Because as highly sensitive people, when we live in this modern world, we are triggered into fight, flight, or freeze all of the time, with the pings on the emails and the phones and everything. And so we have a raised level of cortisol in our bodies. And in order to lower this cortisol, which can actually be quite dangerous if it's raised for long periods of time, we need to activate our parasympathetic, our rest and relax response. So how do we do this? Well, there's so many ways. There's two quick and easy ways I'm going to share with you now. The first is you can shake or do a shimmy. Everybody can shimmy. And that dissipates the cortisol. But if you don't want to look like a loon shimmying in public, or if you're on public transport, you can just take some deep belly breaths. Breathing into your belly. And doing that for a few times, that activates your rest and relax response and lowers your cortisol levels. So key number 1, get out of your head, get into your body. Key number 2. So when your computer freezes and you call tech support, in my case my husband, what's the first thing they tell you to do? Absolutely, turn it off and turn it on again. And most of the time that works. But what do we do when our systems freeze and we go into overwhelm? We tend to reach for more caffeine. We put in more hours. We push on through until our systems overload and freeze and we go into burnout. So key number 2 teaches us to trust in our own natural timing. If our bodies are telling us to rest, which is what they're doing when they go into freeze and overwhelm, they're saying, take a break. We need to take a break. Because sometimes we're so busy pushing on through, ignoring our body's signals, that we can't even see that there's a really easy way to do things, and it's right in front of us, but we're so busy trying to push that we don't see this. So key number 2, trust in your own natural time. No pushing. Key number 6. This turns the idea of sensitivity being a weakness on its head. I've already shared with you how our brains take in more information and process it more deeply all of the time. They're supercomputers. We also have this amazing capacity as highly sensitive people to be empathic. We can really pick up on what others are thinking and feeling. We have the ability, with the way our brains work, to sense things that other people miss. We can see things, and we can also pick up on bits of information in meetings and things that other people just don't notice. And we're very good at relating all of this to the big picture. So sensitivity is not a weakness. It is a huge strength. And I believe sensitivity is our greatest leadership asset. Now, I would love to share all 7 keys with you today, but we simply don't have time. So if you're interested in the rest of the keys, please scan the QR code here, and I'll share my Revolutionary Resilience Handbook with you. But of course, it's one thing to have finally the right handbook, and it's quite another to have a guide to take you through it and make it fit specifically for you. So that's why I'm going to include an invitation to book a call with me in the handbook. Bing! Revolutionary Resilience was one of my bright ideas, and I am delighted to have brought it into the world and to be able to share it with you today. Thank you.